And I'm very curious to see if that's going to be useful for developing fidgets, where we might have a fidget creator in the platform, where you describe an app that you want. And if we have the right, data endpoints, it's just coded for you. And then, if you select it and use it, then other people will see it pop up in the registry of apps as well.
Welcome back to Behind the Screen with Ramajo, the podcast where we unravel the stories, insights, and secrets of top-tier artists, avid collectors, and innovative builders shaping the digital frontier, better known as Web3. I'm your host, Ramajo, a avid crypto enthusiast that's been in the space since 2012, joined the NFT space back in 2021. So this week I sat down with the Noun Space team. Really fantastic tool that I've been using on my side. It's a Farcaster client. Really great story about how they got started. They've already delivered, and now they're going back for some more funding with their V2 version 2 of their prop via Nouns. Building in public, really great marketing, some awesome lessons in how to build in this kind of space with some really cool people. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks.
Yeah, let's do some quick intros. Jesse, we have not met, but did you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Jesse Patterson. I've been in the Web3 space since about 2017. I was first introduced through one of the first college blockchain courses through blockchain at Berkeley. And I have really delved into DAOs during my time in Web3. So I helped start ATX DAO, which is the Austin City DAO. And I've spent a lot of time building that organization and getting it to the point where it is today, where we run a lot of events and engage in, politics and helping the local community get into Web3. And I met Willy through that. And we're now building Noun Space together.
Awesome. Yeah, how about you, Willy? And the rest is history, right? So yeah, I've also been in the space since 2017. Before that, I was doing a legal tech startup. I dropped out of college in 2013 to go headfirst into the legal tech industry, knowing very little about legal or startups, but learned a lot from that first journey. And beginning of 2017, I had moved to Austin for an accelerator program, sold my house in Colorado, had some money to invest, and I had heard about Ethereum, and it sounded so cool. I felt like I had kind of missed out on Bitcoin at that point. And I'm like, oh, well, here's this cool new thing called Ethereum. And I love the concept of a decentralized global app store. This sounds right up my alley. So I bought some ETH, and then it happened to be a great year to buy ETH. So by the end of that year, I was obsessed with crypto, felt like a genius because everything had gone up that year. And sold my legal tech startup in December and started a company with some friends I had met through the same co-working space and accelerator program called Bitfract. So all the friends that were there that were really into crypto had this idea to build a tool called Bitfract, which was the first tool where you could trade Bitcoin for multiple cryptos. It was built on top of Shapeshift. That was a lot of fun, coming from a uphill battle, learning a lot, and trying to build a company to disrupt the legal industry, to then building something that was much simpler and had pretty instant product market fit. Was really exciting. And so 6 months after even having the idea, Shapeshift acquired Bitfract. I've been working there since then. So I was principal product manager at Shapeshift back when it was a centralized organization. Got to lead a lot of the DAO setup and launch, and have been head of decentralization at the Fox Foundation since Shapeshift transitioned to a DAO. So Fox Foundation is the foundation that supports Shapeshift DAO in achieving sufficient decentralization. So big fan of DAOs. When I moved back to Austin, immediately joined ATX DAO, met Jesse, and then we did an NFT project earlier this year on Base called Trash NFTs, the week that ERC 404s became standard. So we basically, both Jesse and I had some free time. I had gone to part-time at the Fox Foundation, and we were kind of figuring out what is the next big thing to build. I joined Nouns because I had more free time, and I've been a huge fan of Nouns for a long time because I love what they're about. And I, again, love DAOs. And I feel like Nouns is just a blue chip, like gold standard of DAOs. So I was excited to get involved there. And we had the idea for Noun Space. It was actually at an ATX DAO party in Austin during South by Southwest, right when the request for proposals from Nouns for people to build Nounish Farcaster clients was up. So that's kind of where Noun Space idea originated. And yeah, we haven't looked back since. It's been about almost 6 months since we got the 100K from Nouns to start building Noun Space. And yeah, Jesse and I and the rest of the team have just been laser focused all summer, working super hard to get Noun Space to where it is today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually did have a little bit more of a question on the initial setup because I was going back and looking at the proposal, and I saw that like it was actually just like a general like call to action, like, hey, we want to like just seed money, and I don't like your name wasn't mentioned, like basically no specific team was mentioned. So what was that process of like being like, hey, like raising your hand and being like, we have this idea, and because like from what I can see, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm pretty new too. It's like that's just kind of what I saw. It was like, hey, we want to put like a 100K or 150K, I forget what the amount was, and it's like we want to like help 3 teams, and we want to build like a Nounish Farcaster client or something like that, something new. So yeah, can you walk me through that process a little bit of like?
Yeah, there was a huge competition for those top 3 slots. I think we had 40 competing proposals.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was just whoever got the most votes in like a big free for all, basically, across all of those proposals. So yeah, just put our vision out there. I think Willy had already talked with some Nouns folks about the idea of like a like MySpace but Farcaster. And the product idea that we like pitched in our proposal was maybe like a step past that, but like definitely still inspired by that like initial vision of bringing customizability back to the internet.
Yeah. I really like the RFP process too. So Nouns had, like you said, they passed 2 props for 150K each, because actually the first time they did the 150K prop, they realized that it wasn't really compelling enough to get the quality of builders that they wanted to come try and build Nounish Farcaster clients. So they passed another prop to double down and make total prize pool 300K for 3 teams. And I really like that approach because when you compare it to like the typical Nouns governance process where anyone can come make a prop and it can come from anywhere, I think it's a lot better to be able to judge proposals for like the same initiative from competing teams, because you can judge them relatively and you can see like, okay, if we know that Nouns wants to fund a Nounish Farcaster client and we all agree there, cool, let's get some funds together and let's open it up to see who's willing to actually come do this. I think it's actually a really great process to ultimately be able to find like the best team, the best idea, the best prop to then fulfill something that the community's already agreed that we want, as opposed to like some prop coming in and it's like, does the community even actually want this thing? And is this the right team? If we do want it, is this the best team to fund it? So big fan of the RFP process, and RIP to Prop House, because Prop House was a tool built by Nouns that was built for these RFPs and has since been sunset because the team that was building it is focused on rounds, which is understandable. But yeah, I really liked Prop House. I will say there are other tools out there like Joke Race, basically, that can kind of be used to do the same thing. So I think that might have been also part of the calculus for pivoting, was that, okay, let's go focus on something that no one else is doing and do that really well.
Yeah, that's what it kind of looked like to me as well. Like coming from the Web2 space, like usually I'm in charge of, as you know, like with the legal tech, where we're always like really connected with procurement and strategic procurement or just sourcing as a whole. And so I'm used to kind of like the whole RFP process, RFI process, especially for my own software that we buy. So I got vibes like that very quickly, which is like not typical, I guess, or different from some of the other props I've seen from, at least in the Noun space. So yeah, I know what you mean.
Nouns has such a great strength there that it can really leverage, because like if some law firm were to go out and say, hey, we need this tech, like who's going to apply to come build it? It might get some applications, but they're not going to get like the quality of builders that Nouns saw for this Nounish Farcaster opportunity. Nouns has that reach, especially with the builder community. So it was impressive. Like Jesse said, there were some really, really strong teams and strong props, some props for products that had like already been built. And they're like, hey, we'll pivot to make it Nouns focused. I think one thing that Noun Space did quite differently than a lot of the other applicants was that we focused on building something that was not only useful for nouns, but useful for all Web3 communities, potentially even users outside of Web3. And that was a big differentiator. Because like you said, the initial prop, it was very open-ended. It was just build a Nounish Farcaster client. Well, what does that mean? And something that we made clear was that we don't want to just build something that requires ongoing funding from nouns, where the team just has to keep coming back to ask nouns for funding. And we think it's much better if we build something that's sustainable. And in order to be sustainable, it needs to appeal to users outside of the nouns community. And again, like, what is the nouns community? It's already so big and so diverse. There's already all these different nounish sub-DAOs and forks that are all unique. How do we build one social app that like satisfies all of them? Okay, well, let's make it customizable, fully customizable. And let's bring in like mini apps that let you bring in all this other content from outside. And if we do that, not only is that going to appeal to the nounish communities, but it could appeal to everybody. And that was like a big differentiator. I think a lot of the other props were just very focused on building something for nouns. And we realized very early on that just was not a compelling path either for the team or for nouns to pursue.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like one thing I'm noticing in my short time of joining is like big ideas, or like not just like, hey, like only our community or our small like little corner of the world. And I know I'm not saying small like in the sense of like Nouns is small or the whole ecosystem of all the forks is small, but it's like not small in the sense of like when you look at the grand scheme of the whole internet, like it is small. And that's kind of what I liked about it too. When I saw Nounspace like early on, was like, hey, this feels like MySpace, and like it's like building Legos all over again to make like the cozy corners. And it kind of falls in line too with like what Dan and the Farcaster community also want too, which is like, you know, you want to be able to customize like your own little world, you know? And it doesn't have to be like, you know, like you're going to be editing like the HTML or the CSS or like putting annoying music like at the beginning, like back in the MySpace days. Like I'm old enough to remember all that. Like we can put limits to it, obviously. But it is really, it's a cool concept. And I agree with you. Like it's nounish to me in the sense that like, even if you don't use any of the noun stuff or any of the nouns, like let's say template, like from a visual perspective, like it's still a very useful client, and it's becoming more useful too. Have you guys seen Llama Feed by any chance?
Oh, yeah. I actually, we've seen a lot of stuff coming out like really recently that's like very similar to Nounspace. Like,
Yeah.
visually, like, oh, these are like blocks that you can put together for a custom interface. Some like MySpace inspired stuff starting to come out, and definitely a lot of fervor around mini apps.
Yeah.
Like we kind of saw that logical progression from like, okay, frames are neat, but they're limited very clearly. So like, how do you take frames and put them on Crack?
Yeah.
And so fidgets was our answer to that. And of course, like mini apps basically are fidgets. They fit kind of the same niche. But yeah, Llama Feed.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Exactly. I don't know if you saw it, Willie. I put it in the internal chat. I can send it to you via Warpcast too. But it's super funny. Like I saw this instantly, and I was like gonna send it to you guys and be like, hey, just whatever the delta is, those are some more fidgets you guys can build.
I love that. And to your point, like we see a lot of stuff that is being built as a new product, and we're like, this would actually just be great as a fidget, right? Like it doesn't need its own product, it doesn't need its own brand and company and like domain and website that people have to go visit. Like let's just put this in a fidget, and it's great. Like if we don't have to build all these fidgets ourselves, that's the dream. Like we think if we try to build them all, that's too much of a task, but we can instead build tools in the framework where people can build their own fidgets, take these cool ideas they have, these cool protocols and apps that they've already built, and make that accessible to users in social. That's a winning strategy. And so Yeah, that's what we're focused on, is building the engine, the framework, the tools that can connect like these developers who can build cool stuff with users and lower the barrier of launching something cool, so that it's just a mini app instead of trying to build a whole company and product around it.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes like, like one of the things I feel like with frames, and obviously this might change now with the mini app meta, but like, like a frame would go viral. And unless you bookmarked it or it was like one of those frames you would use daily, I would say within a month, it was out of mind, like people weren't using it or anything like that. And I would say that like what I like about Nounspace at least is that you could put that frame and it's like there, and especially if you use it daily or I don't know, like it makes it so like it stays there and you kind of remember it. And so I feel like it kind of makes it stickier in that sense too. And it might change with mini apps, like people might be, like their frames will be less forgotten, I guess. I don't know. Maybe because like you can, like the experience is a little bit better instead of like clicking right and it moving along like to the right, like changing the image or whatever. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I like about kind of your guys' things, is that like it's like your mind could, whatever you want, like you could almost make it happen essentially. Like you said,
That's
like it's
the
just
goal.
building the framework and then people will go wild.
I mean, the next big evolution for sure is open sourcing like the fidget development. So providing people with an SDK to be able to submit their own applications for it. And then basically the way that Noun Space works is we kind of take care of the back end for these fidgets. So we provide them with like each fidget gets its own auth. So as an app, it can put data into our system that only it can access and decrypt. That they could have their own set of users that they're keeping track of and data for each of those users. And then all you have to build is like the front end, which really lowers the barrier to entry for like building these applications and getting something like quick out the door. And we've thought a lot about how to make all of the pieces of that system much more modular. So even down to the theming. Right now we have like a grid system, but we have systems in place that will like basically let you swap out how things are laid out and arranged and all of that, to really let folks, build whatever their heart desires, like you said.
Yeah. Even the tabs too, like I think me and Willie were talking about this, where it's like a common theme, like in Web3, I mean, people have multiple identities as a whole, but like it's interesting, like like in Web3, like I collect NFTs, and having like an artist like tab, and I know that's what you guys were talking about, tabs, but like having like an artist tab, and then like whether you like it or not, people are doing degen. Like today was degen claim day, or other tokens. So you could have like your degen tab, like it's just like your centralized hub it's like your llama feed essentially. And then you could have like your regular feed where you're just scrolling through things. But I feel like, like the tabs, like you can just go through them essentially.
Yeah. And the tabs are a huge evolution, I guess, of Nounspace. The way what we focused on with our initial version was kind of 3 big core features. So themes, the ability to customize the look, feel, and sound of your space. Fidgets, the ability to add, arrange, embed, and even configure these little miniature apps on your space. And then tabs, which basically just lets you multiply the power of themes and fidgets by adding new tabs. And you can add them to either your home base or your space. So I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but your space is like your public profile that people will see when they come to check you out on Nounspace. So you got your Farcaster feed and then whatever other content and functionality that you want to share here. We're in the final stages of adding tabs to profiles. We're working on that late last night, and I think we're going to go right back to working on that after this podcast. But that would be like kind of the final core feature that we initially set out with. We've also added other functionality on top of that, like notifications and search. We need to add channels. That's like one of the core pieces of functionality that's still missing from Nounspace. And by the way, I'm sharing my screen. Are you seeing? Yeah, you got
Yeah,
it.
we can see it. Yeah,
Oh.
and people will be able to see it too.
So I figured it would help just to kind of show the difference between the home base and the space, because to your point, like a lot of Web3 users have different communities, different content, different functionality that's important to them. And so right now, like in a Warpcast or another social client, you just have like your feed, or you can go visit other user spaces. We realize that these themes and fidgets and tabs are just as useful on your space that you're sharing publicly as they are on your home base. So you can add the communities, the content, and the functionality that matters to you to your own home base. And like, for example, if you're, part of multiple different DAOs and you want to like track their governance really easily, you can add, multiple snapshot fidgets basically to track the different DAOs that you want to keep track of, and not have to just and then just very quickly every day, just see, are there new proposals that I want to participate in, and vote on them all from one place. And you can do that not just with snapshot proposals, but you can also do it with Nounish governance proposals. And again, like this is also just a great way to see the beauty of composability at work. Like all of these smart contracts that get replicated time and time again, we can create, one UI, one mini app that can display, lets you read and write to these contracts. And then we can use that same UI, that same mini app, to just let people plug in any other fork of that contract. So this hopefully gives an example of like how, whether you're a user that cares a lot about DAOs and you need in multiple DAOs, or you're part of multiple different communities, you could have like a tab for every community that you're a part of. And then, or if you, are a heavy DeFi user, or you're super into NFTs, like whatever it is, you can customize your own experience and track all of that in one place right next to social, instead of having to leave social every time you want to go use one of these other features.
Yeah, I even see you have like the New York Times on there, which is great. Yeah, that's like it's fantastic. I've customized my home base to have the DAOs that I follow now, and the feed as well. So it's really great.
I love it.
And these fidgets also kind of like, since they're leveraging Farcaster, like a single basically like set of users, you can have kind of a consistent presence across all of them. And with that, like one way to like link someone's activity across all of these different fidgets, you can create like social experiences within those mini apps that you would otherwise have a hard time doing, right? So you can, maybe if you're trading, you can be like competitive with folks that you interact with the most on Farcaster, and literally just like have some kind of public like social feed of trading. There's I think a lot of ways that folks can leverage the existing social graph, and definitely like the internet in general has like shifted towards having more content within social media. And like we've seen like right now, Gen Z is kind of shifting towards using like TikTok or Instagram to search for like information that's relevant or useful to them. Like the quality of Google search results has gone down. And part of that, I think, is going to like that trend is going to continue to increase because of the sheer amount of like AI output that's going to be on the internet. Like most companies at this point that are like paying attention to AI have started to put out like AI generated articles about their brand. The sheer amount of information out there that's just going to be like more low quality or lower like signal to noise ratio is going to go through the roof. And so having like a social graph that you can vet to a certain degree, and do like, degrees of Kevin Bacon, how close is this person to someone else I know, or like what activity had they done like on chain or within fidgets, to give them like a score of how real they are, will help with like basically curation of the content that's out there, which is going to be like this massive challenge as we move into content becoming just incredibly easy to produce.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Let's see.
I'll stop sharing too. The one thing I wanted to add too, I know we were talking about these different fidgets, the frames, and how we want to build the fidget SDK. We think that's going to be a huge unlock. But it is pretty cool how already, like to your point around these frames that get lost in bookmarks, like just the ability to add any frame or any iframe, any website that supports iframes, and just embed that next to your social feed, like that alone is a huge unlock that I don't know any other social app that makes that possible. But just that alone enables us to bring all these frames that are getting built, all these different websites, and bring them into your social space. And that alone is like already just, I like to think of these as these like infinite fidgets, basically, where we build one fidget and then it just gives our users access to a growing library of different applications. So
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you even like as a user, so, and this might seem like trivial or not revolutionary to you guys because you guys are developers, but like I'll give you an example. So like I know just enough like coding to be slightly dangerous, essentially, like in a business setting, or at least in the legal department for sure. But like one thing that I was running into recently was I wanted to build like a website for like a portfolio for myself, but also like my Web3 portfolio, like with all my content and stuff. And so for my personal one, I think I was using some static website generator. I forget which one.
Wix, Webflow.
No, I think I went with like Jelko or Ugo or something, like
Some really cheap one.
yeah, it's a really cheap, easy one, and it was great. But the only issue was like the content, like updating that website was essentially I had to open up like VS Code and like make the edits there, and I was like, that's kind of annoying, like like because for me specifically, like all I'm updating is really like I want to like you want to reach me, like here it is, and if you want a copy of my CV, here it is, like very simple stuff, like nothing's really changing. But for my content one, I'm cranking out content once a week for the newsletter, like written content for the podcast, like every 2 weeks, and then just doing a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, am I supposed to open like an editor every single time I want to like link out to a different thing, like for this content, like Web3 identity? I was like, this sounds insane. Like, I don't want to be doing this all the time. So I was looking at these like low code, no code kind of like website builders, and there was one built on Notion, and I do a lot of my stuff for my content on Notion, and literally it's the exact same thing you're saying. It's like you could just it's like building blocks. Like you can say like, here's my podcast, and in the podcast page, you just dump like an iWidget of your podcast RSS feed, and it just makes it look pretty for you. And I mean, it obviously, like if you had a bunch of time and you know what you're doing, and yes, you're gonna make a way better looking website than what I have. But in my case, I was like, well, this is pretty straightforward, and essentially, I just put in the URL or the RSS feed, and it kind of auto updates itself. I don't need to do anything specifically, so it's been nice from that regard. And those tools have gone really popular now. Notion's even released their own way to like publish your own website and stuff like that. So they clearly see a market there, essentially. So yeah, like I like what you're saying about like the widgets and all that. Like I think it's
Fidget.
can someone create something like way cooler for themselves? Like if they're already a developer, yeah, 100%. Like they can make it look really pretty and go all out. But like for some other people like myself, I'm like, dude, like Nounspace is actually pretty cool. Like people could see, like it took me less than 30 minutes, and especially since you guys created kind of some visual templates as well, like it makes it really easy at that point for someone to be like, here's like my little cozy corner of things that of me in Web3, essentially, like
Yeah, we're a little more like the Canva of website builders.
yeah. It's great, man.
I'm not
I
a
love it.
developer actually, so it sounds like you and I are about like the same skill level, Grandma. So
Okay.
I love no code stuff and being able to feel like a hacker and create and build stuff without having to write code. So, and props to Jesse and the engineers for building everything you've seen.
Yeah.
We want to take it a step further, and like one thing that's on our roadmap is is leveraging AI to generate like websites for you. So to take kind of some of the fancier stuff that you could be doing and make it possible, but still keep your hands completely out of the code if you don't want to be, playing around in it. I think we're going to see a lot of that. And I'm very curious to see if that's going to be useful for developing fidgets, where we might have a fidget creator in the platform where you describe an app that you want. And if we have the right, data endpoints, it's just coded for you. And then, if you select it and use it, then other people will see it pop up in the registry of apps as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be sick. Like a little mini marketplace of like, this is how many it's been used throughout this many workspaces.
Yeah. I mean, Nounspace is just going to start collecting basically data streams for information that's out there. And then that'll be accessible to the AI to like code connections to. So that'll take care of a decent amount of the complications that AI right now can't really handle. It doesn't handle like going and grabbing keys from our particular like data provider, and then like getting your environment variables set up and all of that. But like in this case, we would have that all done already. So really all the AI is doing is taking that data and then putting it into a front end, which AI has proven to be actually pretty good at like creating visual results in code.
Yeah, I've been messing around with like Cursor too, where like I saw someone's like blog and I was like, just copy all this. It's really good at that kind of stuff.
And getting better too. So yeah, it's cool that that's clearly the direction that things are going in, and it's pretty exciting to be building in a place where not only are we at the intersection of like Web3 and crypto and decentralization, but also AI. It feels like there's a big opportunity for us to help take all this cool AI stuff that's getting built. And to your point, Gramajo, like we're familiar with it, we know how to go in there and get into Cursor, but like the average user doesn't necessarily know how to go actually use AI, let alone to use AI to build an application. So very excited to like let people customize their theme, their background. Like that's one thing that we're already doing. Like we're already going to AI, asking it to generate the HTML, CSS background, and then copying it and pasting that into the code tab of the theme editor. Very excited to like let people just say what they want their space to look like. Like, oh, I want sparkly rainbow unicorns on my background. And then boom, you have like a bespoke background like that. Seems definitely like, yeah, we're very excited about that. That could be, I think, a killer feature that really gets people excited and like gives you that same ability of customizing your old MySpace page, but without having to write the code or know any of that yourself. And then to bring that to mini apps, I just think, is like clearly the future. And so letting AI create like whatever fidget you want. Very exciting that like even though we're focused on this Web3 social thing, it feels like there's a big opportunity for us to still leverage these huge changes that AI is going to have over the coming years.
Yeah, like the barrier to like creating these apps is going down a lot, but like hosting and distributing it is still challenging. Like going from, oh, it shows on my desktop to, oh, I can get users in here. I can like have people actually be able to access it online, and people can find it. Those are hurdles that, even if you're able to generate an app locally, you're going to run into, and those are going to slow you down a lot. And so having something that's just automatically hosted on Nounspace really starts to lower the barrier of entry to not only creating something that's useful for yourself, but something that might be useful for other people, and them actually being able to play around with it and start using it as a building block in their own, ecosystem for using the internet.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a great point. It reminds me of a really funny screenshot of a conversation I saw the other day. You guys might have seen it too, but a friend was talking to his friend. And he's like, bro, you should see this app I just created with Cursor. Like, you're a developer. Like, your job is done, bro. And the developer friend goes, oh, really? Like, send me the link. And the friend sends localhost 3000. So, yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. Okay, so I want to dive in a little bit about your guys' prop, the one from September, and then also your most recent update to it. But kind of before I dive into that one, you guys have been live for a little over 3 months, I believe. What are kind of the lessons you guys have learned? And I guess either on the lead up to going live, since you've gone live, yeah, that could help other people as well, that are in this world.
I mean, I think a big one is it's good to set goals for yourself, like set, timelines, deadlines. But if you're going into like a problem where there are unknown unknowns, announcing your deadlines publicly will require you to make sacrifices along the way that you might not have made if you didn't have like this external pressure.
Well said.
So we tried to hit our 3-month deadline for like the Nouns prop, which was like, okay, from when we get this 100K, we wanted to have our app out the door within 3 months. And we were the only team that actually hit that. But we definitely had to go back and rebuild some of that stuff in the previous 3 months to get it to accommodate all of the features we really wanted.
Yeah, since you bring it up, have the other 2 apps launched? Or like, did I miss that? Or it's only been you guys so far?
I mean, I think one of them is that there is a
website.
I don't know if you could call it a client. It's a website that pulls together Nounish content. So it's an aggregate of a bunch of Nounish Farcaster content. But it's not a place where you can go and post or like follow or like actively engage with Farcaster. And that's the only other one that's launched so far. So I would say that I would love to see those continue to develop and the one that hasn't been launched to be launched. But Nounspace is definitely the most successful in terms of like delivering a client for Farcaster.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like trying to look for it. I was like, where are the other 2? That's something that I'm noticing too, even just in general with like Nouns, is like when something passes, like especially as a new person, I was like, oh, this is cool. And I see like when the prop was submitted and all that. But like the follow through on it is like and I know people are like, oh, there's prop dates and a couple other places where you could check out. And I've been checking it out and stuff. But yeah, I feel like at least from like a new person, like that experience of like seeing it, like showing up to the prop, getting approved. But then after that, like it's hard on the follow through.
Yeah.
One of the challenges with funding projects as a chain organization with no legal entity and no really, so no leadership or anything. So
I feel like there's like a prime opportunity, and someone might say this is repetitive, but if there's one thing I've learned from like change management is like people need to hear things like 7 times for it to stick. And I would say like I'm surprised we haven't seen a bot that like looks at your voting history, and if you voted on a prop and then there's some kind of update somewhere out there that it just like tells you, like sends you direct casting, hey, there's an update. Go read it.
Yeah, you should build it with cursor.
Yeah. I had that thought last night. I was like, this needs to be a thing.
And I will say, yeah, I agree with Jesse. I hope to see the other project ship as well. I do think they're still working on it. But I also think it just shows like that 100K in 3 months is not a lot to build like competitive Farcaster client. It's a big undertaking. We're competing with like Warpcast basically, who has $150 million and a big head start. So it's a big undertaking for sure. And I think that probably has something to do with why we haven't seen these things ship yet. And also, this is just a personal assumption, but it goes back to that belief that like the incentive isn't necessarily there for a team of quality builders to build a Nounish Farcaster client that's just focused on nouns and that basically relies on like nouns primarily for funding or Nounish community members for funding. It's just the economics, I think, just don't add up. And these are talented builders that have great opportunities to go build cool stuff and change the world. So yeah, I think that might have had something to do with it. It makes sense to me, but again, that's just me hypothesizing.
No worries. Yeah. Go ahead.
One of the proposals, the guy that proposed it is now working on the Warpcast team. So
he definitely found something that was more, which it worked out in that regard. But yeah, that's hilarious.
Decided that might be more productive than trying to battle the beast, poke the bear.
Yeah, I give props to the people that are doing it though. Like, it's tough, I think everyone always points to Supercast as like a success, or obviously there's many definitions of success, especially in this kind of game right now that we're in, and in the market that we're in as well. So I don't know. Like, I feel like the clients that are like trying, so like Recaster is another one that's like pretty cool. You guys and Supercast, like it's a tough game, like you said. They have 150 million. They have multiple engineers. They got a head start. I feel like you guys are doing cool, and you're trying something very different from all of them. Like,
I think that's the big thing. Is like, if you're
yeah.
going to make a client, you got to differentiate. Like,
that's exactly it.
You're probably not going to beat Warpcast in building a better Twitter clone. And so like, we saw that like frames on Warpcast like really popped off, and like what was popping off about them was like the composability, right? And so like, what if we just take that to its logical extreme? We create a client that is like completely composable. So like in Nounspace, even the feed is a fidget.
I noticed.
So you could in theory create just a completely different feed. And I've seen people post about how they're like, oh, I wish I could make a client that like had these characteristics. And there's a ton of work that goes into a client beyond just the feed, right? Like notifications, authentication, the connection to Warpcast, and then connected apps. So having a platform where you could just make your own customized client without having to deal with all of the other work that comes with it, provides an avenue for those folks that want to like really dig into customization.
I like that narrative, Jesse. I think once we have this fidget SDK, it's like, oh, don't build your own client. Just build a fidget that with the unique feature that's missing, and then use Nounspace for all the other core functionality. I like that.
Just build a Nounspace feed.
Yeah. No, it'd be awesome. I mean, personally, like there's a couple people that I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you have seen him. NT. He's like a dev out on Farcaster, but he's been building a lot of like using AI LLMs to like summarize what's happening in Farcaster. I think like Balaji's had like 100K bounty of like create like a summarizer of what's going on in the last 24 hours in Farcaster. And I don't know if he won it, but like he got pretty damn close. Like he has like a really good tool. And the reason why I bring it up is in Llama feed, there's like Ask Llama, like literally it's like search. And it's like a perplexity search essentially. So he built like a perplexity search equivalent, but for Farcaster. And I think he did like a specific one that was for Dan and all the AMAs he's done. So like, essentially, if you wanted like a Dan-like response to one of your questions, you could get one. But like, yeah, like that could easily be like, put it in there and be like, this is what's trending in the last. Yeah, that could be a widget. Like what's trending in the last 24 hours. If you could choose like for the feed, what algo you want to apply, like AirStack versus I don't know what the other algos are out there. The Warpcast one, the priority one. I don't know. Like there could be.
Definitely want to let people choose which algos, and spam's becoming a big issue. So like giving people the ability to like filter channel feeds by different rules, like, oh, do you have X token, or have you interacted with Y protocol, or has your wallet spent like at least $10 of gas fees? Like things like that could go a long way in combating the spam.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get it. Thanks for that, by the way. I was curious on like, since you guys are doing this, and how many people are building clients, I was like, hey, like, what's some learning opportunities you guys have here to share with folks? So
I got one more quick learning opportunity, and this goes hand in hand with the nouns prop, basically. So our V2 of the prop, the goal is really focused on finding 10 communities, which is what our target user is, Web3 communities, and getting them to use Nounspace as their primary hub. So the learning there, which I think is applicable to everyone building something big, is before you try to build something that solves everyone's problems, all of everyone's problems, just like focus on one target user that strategically makes sense and like solve their problems, get them really happy, get some power users before you then expand and go on to other use cases. So for us, that's Web3 communities. And again, we think there's a big opportunity to focus on these communities who have stuff fragmented across multiple different websites and applications and help them bring it all together while also like listening to their feedback of like, what are you missing from other social apps? What does Warpcast not have for your community? What does Twitter not have? Cool. Okay, let's build that for you so that we can not only help you bring everything together, but be the best social app that really focuses on solving communities' needs. And if we can get the communities on board, get them to bring their community members on board, hopefully that will give us enough of like a compelling user base that we can then get these developers to want to come build fidgets. So that's just one big learning, is make one target user really happy before trying to make everyone happy.
No, that's a good one. I would agree with that. Let's dive into this prop.
Let's take a quick break. I hope you're enjoying this episode. This episode was made possible with the support of my premium subscribers: Seattle Dog, MacMinos OG, Lucrece, Johan, Nonlinear, Brennan, Peachy, Inceptionally, Topos, Tanny, Tree Girl, and Branson and Disco. Thanks again for your guys' support. Really appreciate it. If you'd like to receive exclusive drops, access to token gated content, make sure to subscribe to my hypersub. Link will be down below. Also, if you collect this episode on pods, for the time being right now, you can actually vote on the next host, as well as receive some money as well for your suggestions and voting. Thanks.
I don't know if it makes sense for like, you guys let me know like how you feel, but like, does it make sense to cover a little bit V1, or do you guys just want to go into, I like the way that you wrote V2, by the way. It's just like, this is what's changed at the very top. Like, it's very, it's good. What do you guys think? Should we cover V1 a little bit or go straight to V2?
I feel like we've kind of covered like the essence of V1, where like what we wanted to build, right? And whereas V2 is more of a, here's where we're at and like here's the next step. So maybe we jump into that.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I agree, because I think you guys covered V1 pretty well, I would say. Like, we didn't talk about it specifically like in the details, but we're at V2 anyway. So yeah, let's talk about V2. Do you guys want to kick us off on, should we just cover high level, what are the differences between the original one and this one?
Sure. Maybe we can share the screen again too, because it'll be cool for people to see this too, especially if you've never seen like a governance proposal or a Nouns governance proposal. Nouns is definitely like, again, the gold standard of DAOs, and I think it's the most rigorous. It's like governance major leagues, basically, because you get so much feedback from so many different people who really will take the time to like review it. So we really focused on making sure that we had all the information that we felt was necessary to communicate, but also tried to make it concise because people only have so much time. So like you said, we started with the key changes from our first prop, which put up a couple weeks ago. It had majority yes votes, but it didn't have enough yes votes to reach quorum. And so it didn't pass. We're back for round 2. We're thanking everybody for their feedback, of course, and we're letting them know we're still committed. And here are the main changes we made. So the funding request is now $200K. Before it was $250. As part of that, the full-time headcount is 4. So myself as a product manager, and then 3 engineers. We all wear a lot of hats, of course, as such a small team. But yeah, a really, really lean, mean team, especially for this current stage that we're in. And our goal before, the goal was to reach sustainability with the $250K. Now we're just focused on specifically getting 10 communities at least using Nounspace as their primary hub to share the content and the functionality they wish with their audience. We think that's solid for showing some early validation of product market fit, and something that we can achieve in this next phase with 200K. If we crush that goal, then the plan is to basically figure out what is the next goal and use all the learnings that we've gained since achieving that goal to to inform where we should go next. We added some information around the vision, the mission, the target user, and the go-to-market. There were some people who gave feedback on the first prop that this was not clear. And for us, I think it was pretty clear. We definitely put a lot of thought into it. And I don't necessarily think that much of this has changed since the first prop. I guess if there's more clarity, we really focused on it, but it's definitely communicated. Whereas before, it's a great example of how, like, if you don't put something in the prop, then people might assume the worst or that you haven't thought about it. So made that clear. We added usage metrics, which have continued to grow. So it's a good time for us to be requesting funding because we have some solid metrics. And then we added more information on the space token and the Nounspace DAO, which launched September 12th, right after that last prop. And then overall, we tried to shorten the prop and just focus this part on the road ahead. And then we took a lot of the information on what we've already accomplished and we put that into the appendix because we have done quite a bit and we wanted to make sure that people saw everything that we had done, but kept that in a separate space because really the main thing is this proposal. Wanted to keep that focused on top. So won't dive into all of it because it's really, really long. But basically we give a TLDR, talk about our vision, our mission, problem we're solving, Nounspace's solution, what our goal is for this next 5-month phase, which is what we're committing to at a minimum with 200K. Who our target user is and why that they're our target user, our strategy. It's all about the strategy. And I really think this is a killer strategy that really plays into like the opportunity, our team's strengths, and makes sense. It's a thoughtful strategy that we're excited about and the momentum. Some great growth, 500% growth over the past 6 weeks. This was last week, so it's I think we had a little bit of a dip, but still the trend is just going up. And I think we're on track to beat last week this week. So great to see some like pretty compelling growth for a project this early. Obviously, we need a lot more users. We need to find product market fit, and we don't think we're there yet. Like we just built this MLP. It's very much a proof of concept and a solid foundation to build upon. But we are confident that in the next 5 months with 200K, we'll be able to either validate or invalidate this hypothesis, hopefully validate it. And we have some very encouraging momentum that makes it, it's not unrealistic to think that we are on the right track already. Very important. Maybe this should have been higher up, but we talk about benefits to nouns. If you're asking nouns for 200K, you got to make it clear how this is going to benefit nouns. We talk about how we're going to use these funds and then talk about a path to sustainability, or at the very least subsidized costs. So even if we're not able to get to sustainability in this next phase, at least generating revenues and using those revenues to reinvest in growth and development so that we're not 100% dependent on nouns. And we just end it with some cool spaces that have already been customized. Gramajo, if I had seen your space. Oh yeah, there it is right here. Here's the Gramajo space. You're featured.
Oh, nice. I love it.
And then a recap and just a thank you to everybody that's helped us before we go into the appendix, which I'll let you guys read yourself. I won't dive in there, but I will say there are some really great videos. We've made some awesome video content. There's a ton of testimonials in here too. But if you haven't seen the Noun Space videos, I definitely recommend checking these out.
Yeah, no, it's super comprehensive, I would say. I saw a funny, just as a side, like I saw a funny comment about like grant writing. So I used to work for like a nonprofit and be on their board, and it's like its own job, like navigating, writing grants, like it's like a skill and making sure you get the votes and all that. And I feel like at least with nouns, like you said, it's like the big leagues. I feel like we might reach a stage at one point where DAOs, like you that's going to become a role because it's a skill and art in itself. Like I would say what you wrote, like, it's really good, man. Like I read a lot of proposals from a lot of vendors and you'd be surprised. Yours is probably better than a lot, like half of them for sure.
Thanks, Gramajo. I really appreciate hearing that because we put a lot of work, not just into the prop, but into building it. And it's so interesting when you put this prop up, it's like, okay, all the effort that the team has put in, we now need to like communicate that to this big, diverse group of people, many of which we've never met before, and try and get them on board. And it's really freaking hard. And then it can hurt when then people just vote no and don't say why. It's like, what?
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I
everyone has
know.
their own perspective, you know, like DownStyle isn't really like a monolith. So like you're trying to find the like currents of like desire within the DAO for like what people care about. And so like a lot of the reason why this V2 proposal is so good is because we got such great feedback from people on what was important to them. And a lot of it was really constructive. You know, not all of it's constructive. Sometimes people are like, nah, screw you.
Yeah.
But like
Eating things, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
tons of people were willing to take the time to talk with us. And we really tried to rework this so that it takes into that feedback. And I think a lot of that feedback was also not just geared towards what people want, but like geared towards helping this project actually succeed.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are putting in the work too, you know, like I think part of one thing that's become very clear to me is Willy's out there, man. I'm not saying you're not, Jesse, but like
I'm much quieter than Willy.
Yeah, Willy's out there,
pushing
man.
nonstop.
Yeah.
I'm pushing on the side you can't see. You could go take
Yeah,
a look
yeah.
at the GitHub, commits.
There you
all
go.
700 of them.
There you go. You gotta make that. You gotta put it in on Zora, like just a GitHub heat map of it, and just be like, "Fund me, guys. Motivate me this way." No, yeah, it's really cool, honestly. Like, it takes a team for sure. But yeah, like, Willy sent me like a video about like him speaking for DAOs or whatever, and I was like, man, like this is cool. Like the team that's coming here to, you guys are living and breathing it. It's kind of like an easy way of saying that. So it's fantastic to see. Have you identified those 10 communities by any chance?
I don't know if we can
have ideas. You don't have to say, but like, I'm assuming it's very critical to choose the right 10, you know?
For sure. Yeah, we want to be thoughtful about it. Definitely we want some Nounish communities as well as some non-Nounish communities. We've already got like a handful of communities that are using Nounspace and communities that want to use Nounspace as their primary hub. These aren't just Nounish communities, but also like we've got KeepKey hardware wallet. We've got Shapeshift, which is a DeFi app. We have Giveth, a donation app. We have SkateHive, which is like a skateboard social thing. So already some awesome initial communities, but I don't think anyone that's using Nounspace daily yet or as their primary hub. But already we've gotten some really good feedback from these communities. Like Base Noun, for example, wants to use Nounspace as their primary hub, but they need mobile support, right? They can't just point everyone to a website that only works on desktop. Yeah, it really makes sense. So that's great feedback. We want to build that. We know it's not just going to be useful for Base Noun, but other communities as well. And then other feedback that we've heard from a lot of the communities that we have been talking to that want to use Nounspace is that we need channels. And so that was one of the that's one of the final missing core pieces of functionality from Warpcast that we haven't built yet, but we're very excited to bring channels to Nounspace, do it differently, hopefully better, bring the power of games and fidgets to these channels. And that will hopefully, we have been talking to a lot of really awesome, some of the top channels on Farcaster that are very interested in this, but until we have channels, we can't get them on. So yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
Gramajo, if you're looking for like specifics on like the channel front, I can say that I've spoken with I Speak Nerd a bunch, who runs the tabletop channel. Yeah. And the tabletop channel's been like a very actively formed community. And they have a lot of like needs to have a way to like coordinate and organize themselves beyond like what's available right now in the Workcast channel. So that's one of the communities that we're very specifically targeting.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. I Speak Nerd. I think his name's Dan, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong, but very.
Hey, we're all pseudo anon on here, right?
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, this is my last name in case it wasn't clear. Yeah, I feel like that's a good community. Yeah, you guys are in good hands. I'm
They'd
sure
be
you
awesome.
guys are.
They're a little bit nounish too, which is cool. I Speak Nerd's down with the nouns. And then parenting, just a couple days ago, Mick Bain from Parenting cast it out and he said, hey, like, I want to build like a landing page for the parenting channel. Does any tool like this exist? And everyone's like, no tool exists. Shout out to Dari Khan for tagging Nounspace Tom and saying, oh, what about Nounspace? So we'd love to get them on board because, yeah, it's like, oh, we don't have channels yet. We know you guys need channels, but we can show you like what's possible. And before you go try to build some other website or landing page, basically, like, let's do it. Let's just make your channel the landing page and bring the functionality right there. So
I feel
that'd
like
be a
that's
great
what it
one.
is. I mean, and you've done a really great job at like marketing, in my opinion, or getting your name out there in unique ways with your alt account. Just in general, and so it always trips me out. Like it's literally people.
Yeah, with
like,
Tom.
with Tom. I thought Tom was real, just so you know, for like a month.
I mean, you wouldn't be the only one, but if you poke through the pictures, you'll be like, huh, Tom looks pretty square.
Yeah, he does.
All the time.
But I feel like it's like Riot Ghouls L. Like I just tagged her and I was like, hey, like this seems right up your alley. Like she's making like the craziest. I believe it's a she. I could be wrong, but they are building like the craziest homepage on the internet that I've ever seen. Like sprites and Game Boy like music and everything, and someone like that. I was like, okay, clearly that's going to be better for you. But I was like, I still would love to see
She has
announce
announced it.
Yeah,
She
she has
has
announced phase. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
It's
this is great. Like
It was
you
cool
know?
because she was able to take some of the stuff that she was already building and like pop it into iframes right next to her feed. So
Yeah, exactly. So
she's awesome.
she's a great person. But yeah, like that's a lot of the time I keep telling people, I'm like, do you want to build a whole website? No. Like for me, like, I have to figure out like what I'm gonna do for a website for my content. And I was like, honestly, this works for me. Like for on-chain communities, this is working already well for me. Like I have the calendar of like all my events. I have the leaderboard that, like people can forget about it. So it's like the leaderboard of like everything, and it's consolidating all the stuff that's happening on chain as well. Your content that you're posting anyway. So like, yeah, it's all there. So it's great. It's a good way to build like a cozy corner for as a content creator, a community or whatever, and I'm sure it's going to get better. Let's see.
And we figured out more too. So thank you for helping us get the word out.
Yeah, of course.
I think we're also like, we've been making a lot of noise, but also I think reserving it a little bit because we wanted to make sure that before we get a bunch of people to come check out Noun Space, that they will have a really good first impression that can be really valuable. So I think we're starting to get closer to the point that we really can like crank it up a little bit more. Also, this Nouns prop passes, we'll be able to focus a lot more on being loud and on marketing and stuff too. I think that's also something that we want to get done first, and it's taking up a lot of attention in the meantime. So excited to hopefully get that passed so we can just go back to focusing on building and growing. And yeah, like I think we're finally getting to the point where we built the solid foundation. It makes sense to crank up the heat and get as many people to come check it out because you've heard about it, and I appreciate that you've heard it, what we're saying, but there's a lot of people who have not heard about Nounspace still that I think if they did hear about Nounspace, they'd be like, this is dope. I love this. I want it. Like, cool. I'm going to go use it right now. But just getting their attention is like so hard, especially like at the beginning of a bull market when there's so much stuff getting launched in Farcaster every day. And then in the crypto space, it's hard to rise to the top. So
yeah, we started seeing that mini app narrative form. I posted, I was like, I shouted into the void and I'm definitely hearing an echo now.
Yeah. We didn't get any love for like, oh, Nounspace is working on this. Like some people, I think, but a lot of people have no idea about Nounspace, and it's very much on trend with a lot of the stuff that's happening now. So if you have any ideas for how we can get the word out, we're all ears.
I have some ideas for this that I'll share with you guys after. I think I'm gonna. It's fine. I'll be boosting this. So like if you've used Boost XYZ, so this will be on chain. This podcast. And there's some ways to kind of use Boost to kind of get the name out there faster.
Cool.
And then if you do that well enough, you can get it in daylight. And then once it's in daylight, it just becomes its own thing. Not that it's not the same as like TikTok viral, obviously.
That's what I was hoping for. I hope you had some ideas for how to go viral on TikTok.
Yeah, I think we got to reach out to someone. Maybe Hawk to a girl can help us out or something.
Okay. And you're right. We're not even ready for TikTok virality yet. Like hopefully in a year from now, we'll be ready for that. But yeah, for now, this sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what made you guys want to build like the DAO and space as a token as a whole? Is it mostly just sustainability long term, and also like to see like what features people want? yeah, like what was kind of the idea behind all that?
I'll start, Jesse, because I think
Jesse, you're on mute in case you were talking.
oh yeah, he's muted.
Shoot, sorry, I was getting rid of some of the background noise.
I thought we were just like trying to see who goes first. You go.
Okay, well, a lot of current social media is like really like attention driven. Like that's a proven method for like basically generating tons of money through social media. And if you want to like, you know, create a new form of social media that isn't attention driven, you have to like, well, one of them it's exploring alternative funding sources, right? Because if you get VC funding, you're going to be expected to return like a 10x, 100x return. And our goal with Nounspace is not to make like tons and tons of money. Our goal is to build something that like can be used as like this fundamental piece of the internet that is for everyone. And we think the best way to do that is to like let everyone that is involved in the platform and like wants to be involved to have a say in how we're building it. So the DAO and the space token kind of serve a couple of different like needs for us in that respect.
I do like that. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like you said, you know, it's all attention driven, and you're exploring a different model. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, it's part of the reason why customizability has gone away, right? Is because all of these interfaces are created to funnel your attention to one specific thing. And if you had this like, you know, changing interface with like information that like is presented in different ways, then you lose all that control over funneling users' attention.
Yeah. I like the it's interesting. Willy was the first person to tip me in space recently. And it's something that I think about, like that it made me think about this actually was like if someone built a really cool space, like their own space for their portfolio or their profile, tipping them automatically would like give them decision-making power, which is great, you know? Like it was cool to just see that like happen. I was like, oh, like that's cool. Like I know for me specifically, like I have, you know, I got the airdrop from Hedgie or whatever, and it's time-based, which is also really cool. But just like that, I was like, in the future, you know, like if for some reason or whatever, it's kind of like DGen when you're like, why are people doing this thing where it's like money, science, space? Like, what is all this thing, you know? And then you could just build a cool profile, get tipped in that, and then automatically have like some decision-making power, whether it's little or small, whatever, you know, to the future of this product and tool, which is really cool.
Totally. Like meme coins, nothing against meme coins. Meme coins are great, but I think that governance tokens are like for actual projects with users and revenues that also have really good memes like Tom, like that is my favorite type of token. And we believe that the future of social should be community owned. I'm a big believer of like, we all believe in these DAOs, everyone that's on this call, but I'm a big believer that like some of the most successful organizations of the future are going to be community owned organizations. And it's whoever can build the strongest community basically and empower that community. So yeah, like I agree with Jesse, like we're not building Nounspace so that the team can just make a bunch of money. Obviously, if we build something that changes the world, like we want to get rewarded. But I do want to build something that where our users, our early users and our contributors that add value in our community do make a lot of money. Like that would make me very happy and satisfied as an old person if we built something where all these early users were successful and rewarded for their early support. And also in the future, even when Nounspace is at scale, where you can earn money for the value that you add to the social network, basically, like you can get rewarded with minimal middleman. I think that that's incredibly exciting and doesn't exist. And a token is a critical part of that. So if we didn't have a token, we couldn't be community owned. We're excited to be basically taking all the learnings that we have from Web3 and from DAOs and from tokens and like using the latest and the greatest best practices and everything we've learned, try and create a beautiful economy that is sustainable and where users who contribute and use it and developers who contribute get rewarded. And yeah, we can use all of this amazing technology for like programmable money to do some very cool stuff. So tips are just the beginning. Something that we're very, very excited about is like other utilities that are not just like financial incentives. A lot of the token utilities that are actually like getting traction right now, people like it because the number goes up, right? That's like the killer feature, is like you're getting some yield or something like that. You're earning some fees for being a liquidity provider. But what if there's utility related to your social standing, and like the more space you hold or the more space you stake, the higher your posts show up in people's feeds on Nounspace, regular to other users. Very interesting stuff for us to explore. So ultimately, the core utility in my mind is governance, but then any utility can extend from that. And it's not just up to the Nounspace team to try and come up with that, but now the whole community of Nounspace users can make proposals and experiment and help us do all this. So I think that's really freaking exciting. But yeah, it's also a little bit stressful. We got the token out there, and now we've got to deliver basically.
Yeah.
It works out.
I mean, DGen definitely showed that there was like desire for people to have some kind of like stake in the success of the Farcaster ecosystem. And like DGen kind of acted as a proxy for that for a while. But I think like now folks have seen that it doesn't have like a direct correlation, right? And so I think there's a hunger for that, and Space can provide that like opportunity as we become, a more and more popular client. And then as far as like the like boosting your post, we're not saying like you buy space and then like send it to us to like boost the post, right? We're saying like stake the space, so you don't actually like lose the value that you've like accrued basically. But you like commit it to the network basically becoming more valuable, and not just monetarily, but like from like a signal to noise standpoint, right? Require like having like stake space boost posts puts like a limit on like bots being able to like spam posts and having that show up in your feed, because there's going to be like a monetary like element associated with it. But without someone actually having to pay. Right? So you could at any point like unstake that space and then go sell it for the value that it has.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I think Moxie's exploring something like that too, like boosting. There's like some kind of boost feature there that they're doing on their side. So, and it goes back to kind of like to the modularity of or like the choices that you could have with Nounspace, like kind of what I was talking about, like for the feed, you could change the algo from like, the Warpcast one to an Airstack one to an Nounspace one, and if you don't want to participate, you're like, look, I don't care about any of this stuff regarding space, regarding the boosting of space people, like just use the Warpcast algo and you're good to go, like that's that's how I feel. Like that's what I think is cool, about what you guys are building. And also, like you said, like the token helps you with the programmable money. Like you could do grants on like, or a bounty, I guess. I don't even know what the word is, but like a bounty for like someone to come build a fidget.
We can do fun stuff. We can have, Tom's got more followers than Jesse and I. So one like fun idea is like, every day Tom will cast one thing that's the top voted cast from the Nounspace community, right? Like whatever it is, like as long as it's the top voted thing, Tom's going to cast it, right? Like very fun stuff that we can do that tokens make possible.
Damn, see? I know. You got the right person out there, man. Like I'm barely like dipping my toes into DAOs, and you're already over here thinking about that. That's awesome. That is kind of funny.
There are tons of things that we can do, and I think like the Noun Space universe is going to grow exponentially at a certain point. But yeah, our focus, like right now, we are trying to focus in a way that makes like using this platform and making it like valuable to you, like something that is digestible. And like, creating some happy paths to getting to that quickly without having to deal with too much complexity.
Yeah. I did like the way you described it. I don't think my my brain hadn't gone to this point regarding like the Canva website builder, and like now that you've said it and put that thought into my head, now that's all I can think about in my head now.
And a website builder with social, because that's important to highlight that like it really, there's a lot of website builders out there, but without decentralized social stuff like Farcaster, they couldn't really live together happily. And so it's a new opportunity that like these decentralized social protocols make possible that we're jumping on. And one other really interesting thing to mention is that we're not married to Farcaster. Nounspace is a layer on top. And while we love Farcaster, it's our favorite decentralized social protocol. It doesn't have to be the only social network that Nounspace can read and write to and from. So a big opportunity, and just another differentiator from Warpcast. Like, I don't think Warpcast is ever going to integrate other social protocols. Understandably, Nounspace can. So something to think about. Also, yeah, it'd be nice if we can take down the barrier so that you don't even need a Farcaster account to get into Nounspace, but it's an opt-in thing. If you want to sign up or connect your Farcaster account, they can at least get in there and start connecting like all this other stuff that you have on your space that can be useful. Access like the website builder functionality. And yeah, have a new cool Web3 consumer crypto app. Like, we need more cool things for people to do that are in Web3 that aren't scary when you first sign up. So hopefully we can be one of these killer apps for this next cycle.
Carmajo, how are we doing on time here?
We're good. I know we scheduled for an hour 15, so if you need me to wrap it up, we can wrap it up too.
Just wondering for your time.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Had one more topic to bring up on the
go ahead.
The like giving people more ways to like interact with Web3. I kind of want to give a shout out to Privy, because like we're not the only client that's like thinking about this, right? But like creating an account in a social network that just has a wallet under the hood, is a much more accessible way to like interact with Web3. And like using fidgets within Nounspace, because we have like a smart wallet under the hood, which like Privy really helps with, you're not going to have to think about installing a separate browser extension. You're not going to have to like, have like maybe some weird pop-ups that you don't understand. We can process everything through our own UI and make it much more like user-friendly. And Privy's done some pretty neat stuff in terms of like, basically, if multiple websites are using Privy as their like login system, you can share the same wallet across those websites, which I think is really dope, because that you kind of avoid the issue of like the isolated wallet per website, where you just have tokens that get lost, or like that are like isolated in an island.
Yeah, I had that recently happen because I used FriendPet like really early on, and I think I must have used different emails or something. I forget, like the login method, and I had like 4 or 3 Privy wallets that were just for different apps, and I was like, this is getting ridiculous now. Like, and I'm already like pretty good about having hot, warm, cold wallet system set up anyways. And I was like, this is messing with my vibe. Like, I'm a pretty organized person, like, and this Privy thing is is messing it up for me. But it's gotten better now, and I agree with you. Like, it's dangerous, and they're also embedding themselves in Solana as well, so that's pretty cool too. So, as much as we want to be Ethereum maxis, like Solana's doing some pretty cool stuff too.
Hey, Solana users want to come use Nounspace, we're cool with it,
right?
Come on over.
And I know Solana's even exploring doing their own decentralized protocol too for social. I know that was announced pretty recently, and and kind of what you guys were saying too, like Firefly, like you could support Lens. I think that's like
Even Blue Sky, get out of the Web3 space.
Yeah, Nostr, or even try to link your Web2 presence with your Web3 presence.
Did you see they just did a like Ethereum follow protocol, ENS? I don't know if it was actually ENS, but it was Brantley from the ENS announced this a couple of days ago. So yeah, even just giving like every ENS name or even just every Ethereum address, like a profile basically that they can use, will be pretty cool. So much to build.
and so that's why
so much to build. Yeah, we are focusing. I think
So much we could build.
yeah, so much we could build.
There you go.
We're going to try to keep that feedback loop between our users and our building as tight as we can during this next cycle.
And if you're listening in your community that would love Noun Space and would like to be one of these pilot communities that has the opportunity to really inform our roadmap, then our DMs are open. Discord channel is a great place to come get in touch with the Noun Space team, or just cast at us, ideally from Noun Space, but any client works.
Yeah, if you go to nounspace.com, the Discord's right there, bottom left.
Perfect. Yeah, that's I'll make sure to link everything too so people can get to these places. Let's see. I think I have like two more, if that's good with you guys. All right. I think you were bringing it up. Yeah. What is kind of motivating you guys to kind of continue forward? From the prop, from the tool, like just everything, because like you said, there's a lot happening in the space. There's a lot you could build. The market itself isn't that great either. Like every week we have a new company, but every other week too, we're also losing great companies as well. What keeps you guys kind of motivated to be in a pretty challenging space too, on top of like that? Like you're not just choosing to build. You're essentially competing with Warpcast. Like that's the easiest way to.
And then maybe Twitter and Facebook someday.
Exactly. So like
pretty big arena.
Pretty big competitive arena. What's moving you guys forward on this?
Well, I can jump in.
Go ahead, Willie.
I think both Jesse and I were pretty fortunate to be in a position where we're flexible, where we can kind of choose what we want to build. We're not forced to go work on something that we don't want to work on. So yeah, I think it's very fortunate to be able to work on something that we believe in and that we're excited about and passionate about and want to exist and want to use ourselves. Like, it's just very energizing. It gives me like a lot of energy and joy and happiness. I can't imagine working for something that I don't want to believe in, or that I don't believe in. And there's nothing that I can imagine that I would rather like invest my time and energy into building than the community-owned future of social that brings together Web3, all this other content from outside, and has the potential for like AI to play a role and to empower users to like actually access this AI, while also like combating the potential negative effects of like AI proliferating and having all these bot accounts like could get very messy. It's like it checks all the different boxes for me. So definitely like the passion is there. But then also I think just something I wanted to mention is that an interesting thing happens with startups where like at some point you get so far into it that you also have all this pressure basically like from all of your users, your communities, these people who now hold space tokens, the Nouns community that's given us a grant, the team, that also becomes like a really strong motivator for me, basically. Like it starts as passion and I still have that passion, but then I also just have like this pressure to deliver and basically do like what we set out to do, which becomes like, I hate to fail. I hate to not accomplish what we said we're going to accomplish and set out to do. So that's big for me. Final thing I'll say is that, something I'm probably a little bit crazy, but I love these big ideas. I have a little bit of ADD. So like to just try and solve one small problem, I can't imagine doing that for many years, but to be able to create a platform where we empower people to build all sorts of cool stuff, all these different mini apps, like I'm never going to get bored with Noun Space. So for me, it's perfect. And shout out to Nouns for basically inspiring the idea, because we wouldn't be doing this if they hadn't put that RFP up.
Yeah. Shout out Nouns. Cool community.
Yeah. That's what got me to purchase one finally. I was like, okay, this is great.
I think, Willie hits on a lot of points that really resonate with me as well. I just think that there are some things that are broken in like the internet right now. And I think a lot of people recognize it and have been talking about it for a long time. There's a general kind of dissatisfaction with kind of the dystopian nature of our social networks. And for me, seeing like Elon Musk buy Twitter, I was like, to think what you like about Elon Musk, but I think like having individuals have that much power over the global like town square, as it were, right? Is just not good for society. Like, we have these siloed like completely locked down controlled platforms that we digest most of the internet through, and we've lost a lot of the like early like beautiful aspects of the internet where people were kind of like building it together, in all of their own contributions, and we have the opportunity in Web3 to kind of to bring that back and bring it back in a way that's much more resilient, and potentially like competitive in ways to the existing systems that that it'll fracture them in ways that they can't pivot towards. Farcaster offers people the ability to own their social network, and to take it with them from client to client, because that social network is at the protocol level. And then Nounspace is bringing back that creativity, and so like this project is combining a lot of stuff about like what excites me in technology, in like how technology like can empower people, and then like be a tool for like a positive change in humanity. Like technology is always shaped by like the society that uses it, but like we can act on the technology as well. We can build tools that like have positive feedback loops with us.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say, like Farcaster made it possible to own your own like followers and your data, like you said. And then I think what I liked about how like Nounspace is almost like bringing back like a way to like have some skin in the game or ownership over like the client itself, so it's like another layer, a level above that too, and like bringing that level of creativity and all that. So no, that's a good way to describe it, man.
Ownership ownership of the internet,
yeah.
Collective ownership.
Yeah, that's exactly it. No,
Giving control back to the users as opposed to the centralized giants that are Facebook and Twitter.
It's kind of what brought me to, it's what brought a lot of us, I'm sure, to decentralize social, is all those thoughts. All right, so to wrap it up, one last question. Just some context in case you're like, wait, why the hell is he asking this? So I've asked every guest of my podcast what their favorite snack is, and it's because I used to call the newsletter, it was like a reference to snack-sized bits of data or information. So it's just something we've done for everyone. So yeah, give it some thought. What is your guys' favorite snack?
I got mine.
I love it.
All right. So
why, dude?
My favorite snack is apples, walnuts, and cheese, but like in a little knapsack, but like taken with you on a hike, and you like stop under the shade of a tree, and you have like that combo right there. It's just like, I don't know. It's very idyllic. It kind of has like a little bit of a like, I'm a Lord of the Rings hobbit on an adventure, and this is my victuals that I brought with me.
We got next. We got to go on a hike. We got to bring some of that, so because I want to feel that.
That's so funny.
I love that.
You didn't give me the sack. You also gave me the story behind it too. I love it.
I love that. That was a great why. So I'm like, how do you answer the why? But I think you're right too. Like that snack sounds like it'd be even better on the go in a park or on a hike or something than just like at home. Yeah.
What about you, Willie?
My favorite snack is these pistachios that are pre-shelled, which I often get a hard time if people are like, oh, you pre-shelled pistachios, you're too good to crack them. And I really like pistachios, and it's just like it does feel pretty royal and luxurious to just like shovel them into your mouth. And I really like the spicy chili roasted ones from
Oh my God,
whatever the
those
top brand is. Yeah, they're spicy,
so
but
good.
I love those. So I always gotta get a bag of those.
I love that it
I love
feels
pistachios.
luxurious. Yeah, you don't have to. I'm not a peasant here cracking open each nut.
Like a bottle. Yeah, I don't know if it's too much, but I do.
That's hilarious. I know what you mean. Like some days I'm like, dude, I just want to eat pistachios, like just handful. So I understand. I get where you're coming from. The chili ones though, I definitely like them. I think in their shell because they like the shell captures a lot more of the chilliness. So yeah, mine's PB and J. Can never go wrong with PB and J's.
Classic.
Yeah, and you got to go ham on the peanut butter and the jelly. You know, a lot of people skimp out. Like you got to just go. You got to go ham.
I agree. Yeah, I always it's too much.
It's got to ooze. Awesome. Well, thanks again for doing this, guys. Yeah, where should people? I know you said it a little earlier. You know, go to the website, join the Discord. But yeah, where should people find out more about either of you guys, Nounspace? Where should they go?
Well, we also have the Nounspace channel on Farcaster. And definitely if there's updates, they're gonna pop up, show up there. Nounspace Tom.
Yes, definitely follow Nounspace Tom. He posts a lot of alpha.
Yeah, he does.
And then I'm at RealityCrafter
right.
on most platforms.
I gotta follow you because I don't think I do right now.
Yep. Come to nounspace.com. Check out the fair launch too. So when you go to nounspace.com, you'll see a link to check out the space token and the space token fair launch. And then there's also a team tab there that has like links from each of the team members to their Farcaster profiles if you want to DM anybody. But yeah, if you like what you're hearing, definitely come to nounspace.com. And like Jesse said, there's a link to the Discord. We got a pretty awesome community. So if you want to be a part of the community building the future of social, come hang out with us. And Discord is where we do a lot of, where we hang out mostly. In fact, a lot of us on the team will just like sometimes be hanging out in public voice channels. So you can literally just come in and like ask us questions or get help customizing your space if you want that. And yeah, get involved. If you're interested in getting involved, we'd love to chat.
Come hang.
Awesome.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm gonna join the Discord. And then for anybody else too, just listening, if you're a Nouner, make sure you go vote on Prop 647 as well, which I'll have the link for that as well.
All right, welcome back. Before we log off, this week's cast off, and for those that don't know, cast off is a segment where I want to hear from you, the audience. This week's cast off question is, what do you think about alternative Farcaster clients? Is it worth trying them out, investing your time in creating one? I don't know. Let me know. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode on Pods, and for that, I want to thank you. If you're listening to this on Pods, make sure to collect the episode. Again, it comes with voting governance now. That's a new thing. And if you're on Pods, make sure to subscribe on your favorite app, your Web2 app. I drop episodes every 2 weeks. And this way you can get notified as the episodes come out. If you did like this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to share this episode with anyone interested in the topic. If you're a Nouner, check out my other episodes. And yeah, feel free to let me know and reach out if you want to see any specific people or topics covered. Again, you can now vote for specific people. I'm going to probably be doing this every 3 months, but you can still get in touch with me. All right, see you next episode. See you.